You ever, I've talked to many people over the years, and sometimes there's people who get that expression that they're angry at God because of what has happened to them. You know what I mean? They've maybe gone through some terrible thing and they blame God for it. And I can appreciate their pain. You think they may have lost someone and they say, I blame God for it. And therefore, that's why I'm never going to go back to church, or I'm never going to open my Bible anymore, because it's all God's fault. We think about all the different trials that we go through, and I suppose we could blame God for all of that stuff, but I'm going to show you from what we've read that maybe it's not just from God. And that the trials that we go through are things that God puts in our path to bring us closer to Him. Let's look what we see here. Blessed is the man who perseveres under trial. For once he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life which the Lord has promised to those who love Him. First of all, as we look at this, if you look at the Beatitudes in Matthew, there's a lot of similarities between James and Matthew. It looks like James took the stuff from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount and used that as the basis for his message and for his letters. And you understand why, right? Who was James? James is the brother of Jesus. Jesus was the firstborn in the family. James is one of the other siblings. The Bible says that Jesus had a couple of brothers and sisters, and James was one of them. So James obviously learned from his brother. At some point, he came to believe that his brother was God. His brother was Jesus Christ. And so now we have James who says, you are blessed when you persevere under trial. For once you have been proved, he will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love Him. So you are going to be persecuted. You're going to go through tough things. You're going to face different things. And the issues come is not how God treats you, is how you respond or how you have responded to that situation. You know what I mean? If you face some terrible thing and you can start getting angry and screaming your head off and causing a terrible ruckus and something. Or do you do what Job did and said, blessed be the name of the Lord. You have a decision to make every time you face something. Do you scream and swear and shout? Or do you cry to God and say, God, I just need you, and you're the only one I have? And James now says this, you are blessed. That means God's going to pour Himself onto you. You are blessed when you persevere under your trial. And I know we could try to find ways to persevere. Perhaps we could reach out to other people to help, and God has provided that. Or perhaps we can face and use some other situation or alcohol or something to try to go through that trial. But God is saying to us, James is saying, you are going to be blessed. God's going to pour His blessing upon you when you persevere under trial. There is no condition here. It's not this type of trial or this type of trial. It's any trial, anything that you face, God is going to bless you. And once you receive it, once you have been approved, you will receive the crown of life. And I love this section because it's talking about eternity. You know, Jezreel, we're just talking about eternity. We're talking about a long time. The Bible says this in Revelation, be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. There is a reward coming for us when we persevere. And perseverance does not mean you're going to have a stiff upper lip. Persevere means, God, I've got no one else to turn to, and I'm going to turn to you. Persevere means I'm going to hold on to Him no matter what happens. Persevere means you may cry, you may hurt, you may be angry, but persevere means you will still hold on to God no matter what you face. That's what God is saying to us. You are going to be blessed when you hold on to Him no matter what you face. Imagine being blessed. Perhaps you are facing that terrible health situation. Perhaps you're facing that terrible situation in your marriage. Perhaps there's someone who's hurt you so bad. But God is saying, I know what you've been through. And you are blessed because you called out to me. So now as we understand about what it means to be blessed and persevering, that we can start to see something about these tests and temptation. Look at Genesis chapter 22, verses 1 to 2. After these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and Abraham said, here am I. And he said, take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I shall tell you. Weird verse for me to be showing you, right? But God has told this to Abraham. Abraham's son, whom he loves. Remember Abraham, they didn't have children, right? They couldn't have children. Finally, they have a child of their own. They're pretty senior, and they have this child, and they love this baby to the point of everything. And God now tells them, Abraham, sacrifice your son. I can't not picture Abraham. I do not picture him telling his wife, oh, by the way, I'm going to go sacrifice your son, so I'll see you in a few days, right? It's not going to happen. I can picture him going, really, God? Really, God? And I can picture him trusting God, knowing that God will take care of him. This is a tough, tough one. This is so tough. Someone who you love so dear, and God's saying that to you. But look what it is. After these things, God tested Abraham. This was a test. Judges 2, 21 to 22. I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations that Joshua left when he died, in order to test Israel by them, whether they will take care to walk in the way of the Lord as their fathers did or not. God is going to test you. The story of this is the Judges, right? This is after the start of the Jewish nation. In a way, they don't have kings yet, but God had brought them to the promised land, and they're ready to enter the promised land. So they've entered it, and God has said, remove any sort of extra obstacles that will keep you from following me. Just do that. But they didn't want to do it. They just did not want to do it. So God said, I've had enough of you. Stay there. Keep them there. Keep those other influences upon you such that now God is going to test them. God said to them, you are not part of this world. I've separated you. I've chosen you. And yet the Israelites kept those people around them, those negative influences upon them and their culture and society. Those negative influences that would take them away from God. Those false gods. Those vile idols, the different way of life that was taking them away. They were being tested. And we see that they basically pathetically failed their test. Now remember this, they were being tested. They were not being tempted by God. They were being tested. So there is a difference between testing and tempting. And I'm going to explain that to you as we go through this section. And it's a very big difference. And you have to sometimes wonder, who cares? But God is not going to tempt us to sin. It's us when we're tempted, or it's us when we're tested. What do we do with that test? And then do we fall away from God and fall into sin? Job, of course, is one perfect example, right? God said to Job, God took away Job's health, he took away his wealth, and he took away his family. Job had nothing. And during the 40 or something chapters, Job said, I'm innocent. His friends would come to Job and say, Job, what wrong did you do? And Job said, I didn't do anything wrong. Job was being tested. If Job stood up afterwards and said, I blame God for everything, it is his fault, I will not talk to him, I do not like him, then Job failed the test. But if we know the story of Job, he did not fail the test. If he maybe kept his mouth shut a bit more, that would have helped. But he didn't. And his friends were even worse, right? They were just, oh my goodness, so good friends, eh? But Job was being tested. So God is going to test you. He's going to test this church. He will continually test you in your life until God calls you home. Why? Because he wants to strengthen your faith in him. He wants you to know, he wants you to experience him in such an amazing, passionate, incredible way so that when you face that next test, all you can do is say, all I have is God. He is calling you to test you. He wants to strengthen you because he loves you so much. So now then, we come up to this section then. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God. God cannot be tempted by evil, and he himself does not tempt anyone. There is it right there. You can't blame God. You can't. This is the test that you're going to go through. Remember, it's you who is going to respond to that temptation. Respond to that test, excuse me. Do you take that test and then do stuff so that you change it from a test into a temptation? Do you take it to the point that you pathetically fail? Do you run to someone or something? Do you blame God? Do you get angry? Do you do all those things? Or do you call to God on your knees and say, God, naked I came into this world, naked I depart. Blessed be the name of the Lord. That's the test that you face. As a side note, I always think about Job's wife. They had 10 children, and Job's wife says to Job, you're still trusting God. Why don't you curse God and die? And I've listened to many, many sermons over that section, sort of angry at the wife. And I always struggle with that because if you've lost 10 children, wouldn't you respond in a terrible, painful way? You losing one, but 10? My heart goes out to that wife with what she did and what she lost. And I know, of course, Job, they were his children as well. But that pain of losing it, that was a test. But you are going to be tempted as well. You know why you're going to be tempted? Because you live on this earth. But the moment you call yourself a Christian, Satan wants to wipe you out. And I've said that many times. He wants to destroy you. He wants to make sure that you don't just fail, but you fail, and you fail pathetically, and that you fail and that you take people with you. He wants to ruin your reputation. He wants to make sure that there's nothing left of you. And he's going to tempt you with whatever's necessary. But no temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, isn't he? He will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, he will also provide the way of escape that you may be able to endure it. You notice what this does not say? This does not give a condition on the temptation. This does not say, well, if you're tempted this way, then you can't escape. He doesn't give any condition. There is no temptation that is not common to man. Every single temptation that is on this earth has been experienced by other people all over the world over time. It is nothing new at all. And even the work of Satan upon you, attacking you to try to wipe you out, wipe your marriage out, hurt you, destroy you, it is nothing new. And God has an answer, a complete answer. You are not unique in that temptation. You're unique in God's eyes. You're special in his eyes. But that temptation, it's not new. And he's saying to you, I've got an escape for you. I've got an answer for you. You got to trust me. Isaiah 40:29, he gives strength to the weary, and to him who lacks might, he increases power. Strength to us. And he who lacks might, he who lacks that strength, what does God do? He increases power. Call unto me and I'll answer you and I will show you great and mighty things that you do not know. All you have to do is call on God. Fall on your knees, pray, close your eyes. God, I need you right now. Help me. And just like it says in 1 Corinthians, he will take care of you. And he will provide a way of escape that you can endure it. You see right there? Call on him. He's going to give you power. Call on him. He will give you strength. Call on him, and he will give you a way to avoid that temptation to escape from it. And I love this expression because it's an escape. This is not just a tolerance. This is an escape. This is a way to get away from it. I always say amongst the men, one of the weaknesses I've shared with many times of pornography, and men who've come to me and say, I'm still struggling with that stuff. They know the answer. Don't go there. Throw it out. Turn it off. Do whatever's necessary. They know the answer, but they just have been wallowing in that sin for so long, they don't know how to get out of it. But the Bible is clear. No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, he will also provide a way of escape that you may be able to endure it. As another side note, I think we need to make sure of this. You hear the people say, God does not give us more than we can bear. That is not true. God gives us an escape. The only answer to anything that we're facing is through the work of Jesus Christ. Not anything you can do. You cannot escape from those temptations yourself. It has to be through the work of Jesus Christ. It's God working through you to win over that temptation. So that means God is going to give you more than you can physically bear. But it's you trusting in God to win over that. So therefore, no temptation has seized you except what is common to man, and God is faithfully not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will provide a way escape, a way out that you may stand up under it. You always have to give it all to Jesus. All to Jesus, I surrender. And that's hard, isn't it? Every part of your heart, your soul, your mind, everything that you own, everything that you've done, all has to be given to God. There can be no stone unturned when you surrender yourself to him. All of it. And I know that's not easy. But let's look at what it means when you're tempted. Each one is tempted when he is carried away and enticed by his own lust. Then when lust is conceived, it gives birth to sin. And when sin is accomplished, it brings forth death. Look at these words here. I've highlighted the whole progression of sin. And this is, and I see it so credible. So each one of us, we are tempted. We're tempted to sin when you're first carried away. That desire for that something, or that person that's taking you away from your marriage, or that money issue, or that greed for that, or the whatever it is you're facing, you're carried away and enticed. You know that. You sort of forget God at that moment. It comes onto you. It's like a wave that comes and hits you. I want that thing so bad. It carried me away. You're like on that wave and it just draws you away from God. You are enticed. Nothing else matters at the moment, and you're enticed by your own lust. You remember sometimes we see those examples. You have the little angel on the one side and the demon on the other side, and the demon's here trying to tell you the thing, and then you sort of push away the angel. I remember on the Flintstones that show, you used to always have that, doing wrong, right? And that's sort of a way like that, right? And you want to do the wrong thing because it looks so great. It's so amazing. It's so wonderful. I want to experience it. But then you think, well, you know what? I'm just going to do the bad thing. And you're drawn away. It's a lust. It's a desire. It's a passion. It is so strong in you that you don't want to stop. It holds you. You think of nothing else. Nothing else matters. And you're enticed by your own lust. And then when lust has conceived, it gives birth to sin. Your mind now is taken over, and you go do it. And for that moment, it feels good. feels wonderful. For that moment, it was the most amazing thing. It's like a drug, right? The desire, that addict, they don't want to do it, but it's that drug, that thing that they want, that alcohol, and it just draws them, and once they experience it for that moment, that few moments, they have it. And then when that high dies, they want it again, and again, and again, and again, and never stops. And you think, just like the addict, when sin is accomplished, it brings forth death. Too much of a good thing in a way for them. Or you think, after you've fallen so far into sin, you would just want to say, I don't want to live anymore. I want to die. That drug that you've taken, it can physically kill you. That the marriage that you've destroyed because of your desire for adultery, you've hurt so many people. You see the progression here? You go from, hey, I see that thing. It carries me. It brings me to him, to the point now, I want it, and nothing else matters. I'm going to show you Proverbs chapter 7. And I'm bringing this up because it's a bit of hot stuff, and I'm sort of giving you warning. Proverbs chapter 5 says this, "For the lips of an adulteress drip honey, and smoother than oil is her speech. But in the end she is bitter with wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword." I'm going to read you Proverbs chapter 7, verses 26 to 23 from the Message. And I want you to see the progression of sin here. I want you to see the desire, what's going in here. So you ready? "As I stood at the window of my house, looking out through the shutters, watching the mindless crowd stroll by, I spotted a young man without any sense arriving at the corner of the street where she lived. Then turning up the path to her house, it was dusk, the evening coming on, the darkness thickening into night. Just then, a woman met him. She'd been lying in wait for him, dressed to seduce him. Brazen and brash she was, restless and roaming, never at home, walking the streets, loitering in the mall, hanging out at every corner in town." The stage has been set. She threw her arms around him and kissed him, boldly took his arms and said, "I've got all the makings for a feast. Today I made my offerings, my vows are all paid. So now I've come to find you, hoping to catch sight of your face, and here you are. I spread fresh, clean sheets on my bed, colorful imported linens. My bed is aromatic with spices and exotic fragrances. Come, let's make love all night. Spend the night in ecstatic lovemaking. My husband is not home. He's away on business. He won't be back for a month." Hot stuff, eh? This is like Harlequin romance stuff, right? But this is the progression of sin of a man is going through. Now here it is. Here we see what he's done. "Soon she has him eating out of her hand, bewitched by her honeyed speech. Before you know it, he's trotting behind her, like a calf led to the butcher shop, like a stag lured into ambush, and then shot with an arrow, like a bird flying into a net, not knowing that its flying life is over." You see the progression here? And for him, that man, he was supposed to, well, he's not supposed to fall into that, but it was so enticing for him. At some point, nothing else mattered to him. At some point, his sin, that desire, that lust was all that mattered to him, and he fell into that trap. That is temptation. That is the desire of temptation. Temptation is sin. And God is calling us and say, heed not into temptation. He's calling us to say, do not fall into it. God is not going to is not going to tempt you to sin. Do not be deceived, my beloved brethren. Every good thing given and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shifting shadow. It's all the good things, the tests that you're facing, those are to strengthen your faith. The temptations, Satan is looking to destroy you. He's looking to hurt you. He wants to tempt you away from him. And by the way, you just can't blame him. It's you who's decided to fall into that temptation, or it's you who's decided to even entertain the thought of it. Don't go there. As a pastor and as a counselor, I've listened to many stories, and they say, I did this and done that. And I sometimes say to them, well, why did you even go there? Oh, this and that, I wanted to do this and that. No, don't go there. Flee. Run away. Don't even entertain the thought or idea. Close that thing. Turn it off. Put the boundaries in place such that you will not fall into that trap. You see what I'm saying? No temptation has seized you except what is common to man. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he and only he will provide a way out that you may escape under it. Only God. Only him. All the good things, though, are from God. Job, he stood for God. And he may have lost everything, but God blessed him. You know, when you're tempted and you say, I'm not going to go there or not do that thing, doesn't it feel good? Like, don't you just feel like pure and good? And you know, especially as believers, that we can finally come to God and say, hey, I'm not going to go there, so God, I feel good. I can pray to you with a clean and pure heart. And that's what God is calling us to do. Come to him, all ye labor and heavy laden, and he will give us rest. Because now we can come to him and say, thank you, God, because you have given me the strength to face and to win over those tests and temptations. You can thank him for all that he's continually blessed you with. He has blessed you, and that's part of all the good, amazing things that he's done and given us. So when you win, you can really say, I've won. He loves us so dearly. He has given himself for us. And we have to just trust in him. In the exercise of his will, he brought us forth by the word of truth so that we would be a kind of first fruits among his creatures. And as we are the first fruits, as we are the love that he's given us, we are called to trust in him. This you know, my brethren, everyone must be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger, though the anger of a man does not achieve the righteousness of God. So now we come to this point, is you're going to be tempted, you're going to be tested. And the final part of this is to sit and wait on God to guide you so that you could win over that. You know, the person who's going to fall into sin, they'll get up and they'll put all their energy into that. But can you imagine if you're tempted and you just go on your knees and say, God, I will not go there. I'm going to wait on you. Speak to me, dear Father, right now. Show me your will. Help me to win over it. The temptation requires a lot of energy. The testing to win over it doesn't require much energy, because all you have to do is fall on your knees and give it to God. It's so much simpler, isn't it? You listen to stories of people who've fallen into sin and the stuff they've done to keep continuing on into it. It's incredible how much stuff they do, the energy they've wasted, the money they've thrown away, the resources, and it's in fact impacted their health and their well-being. They've gotten diseases. I've listened to these stories of people. But imagine if you just stayed there on your knees praying to God. You are completely protected in him. That's what we're supposed to trust. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can't blame God for what you're going through. He's going to test you to strengthen your faith. And it's going to be hard. And he's calling you to trust him. But if you let that testing turn into a temptation to sin, then you failed. No temptation has seized you except what is common to man. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will provide that way out that you may stand up under it. I learned that verse probably when I was 10 years old. And it's sat with me for all these years. And I can honestly say I have not, as you know, been perfect in any way. But I think that I remember that verse all the time because that has kept me, believe me, at times from falling deeper into the mud and mire of what Satan wanted to destroy. No temptation has seized you except what is common to man. So let's just trust him. Let's just trust God to take care of us. Amen? Father, I thank you for this morning. I thank you for the opportunity that you allowed me to preach your word. James, the book of James, is a book on our practical faith. And I pray, Lord, for anyone right here, if they don't know who you are, may they come to know you, who you are. And Lord, as we come this morning, as we get ready for communion, to break bread and consider you, I pray, Lord, that you will prepare our hearts for that, knowing that we are remembering what you did for us. So thank you for this time, this Father, and thank you for loving us dearly so much. Bring us closer to you as we break bread together. Thank you, Father. Amen. This time I'm going to ask the families to come forward who are helping out with communion.